Seeing more and more on Crash 4, it just keeps getting me more and more pumped. I've had it pre-ordered for a bit, and I can't wait for...
Right now, where that thing I was looking after... Oh, gosh, that hurt. I didn't know spines could bend like that.
2 questions. 1, what are you doing here? 2, how'd you get in here?
Okay, 1, I needed to double check something for Ultimate Throwdown, and 2, internet. It was Combo's fault, I swear.
Okay, now I know you're lying. Whatever, I'm busy. Leave.
What are you even doing that you're so protective about?
My own You want to be part of this, don't you?
Maybe. Granted, I haven't played Team Sonic Racing, but man, Nitro-Fueled was so good, and I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet because I'm lazy.
I'm not going to convince you otherwise, am I?
Now you get it.
Okay, fine. You can stay. Just a heads up, though. My intro isn't made with more than just me in mind, and it's timed. So it'll have stuff like your name not being in the intro cutting one of us off randomly, among other things.
Okay, fair enough. Wait, how...
See what I mean?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Hey, wait, I thought this was Bandicoot Marathon. Why are you talking about the funny Speedy Boy?
Well, it involves Crash, doesn't it? I still say this counts.
Whoa!
Well, I've taken a look at my introductions to these 2 franchises, so might as well cover the latest entries. As I noted in my 2 latest reviews, Sonic the Hedgehog and Crash Bandicoot's lifetime has been a, let's just say, rocky history. Both starting off as revolutionary titles able to rival Nintendo's Red Italian Plumber, and then going through a bunch of different experiences as far as developers are concerned. Rushed games trying to return to the status quo and failing miserably, and even both getting into basic and boring beat-em-ups that also gave them a rather unnecessary redesign. Both have been through a lot, but both kept fans going for years, even through the worst of it all.
That said, Crash didn't get a movie, so how much did that say?
Point is, while most of their games didn't end up being high notes for them, one thing that was kept in mind was their take on different genres. Hack and slashes, Mario Party clones, and today's topic, racing games. Both the Hedgehog and the Bandicoot are no stranger to kart racers.
Wonder where they got that idea. But hey, Sonic's known for speed, so what do you expect?
It was Sumo Digital who brought Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing to the world. And while some have said nowadays it doesn't quite hold up, it did well enough then to warrant a sequel, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed.
Because who needs Sega when we can play as Danica Patrick and the Mercs from TF2? Everyone's dream, obviously! But hey, the game did well regardless, so what do I know?
As for Crash, the series creators Naughty Dog were somehow able to develop Crash Team Racing, a game that's admittedly kind of small, but it was made in only 8 months. So what do you expect? And despite that, some to this day consider it their favorite game in the series, so that's a plus. In fact, it did so good that the series publisher Universal wanted to do it again, and so brought Vicarious Visions on board to develop Crash Nitro Kart, a PS2 version of CTR, and yeah, that's it. And after Universal merged with Vivendi to form Vivendi Universal, no creative naming, I know, they brought Radical Entertainment on, and they developed Crash Tag Team Racing, a black sheep among the trilogy, but still something that has some fans. But all of that doesn't quite explain what we're doing with our lives now, does it? Well, for what's currently the latest games in both series, Sega and Activision decided to put both of their mascots in yet another kart racer. And as luck would have it, they were only released a month apart from each other.
Gee, how convenient. Almost like it was done on purpose.
Sega brought Sumo Digital back once again, and they gave us Team Sonic Racing, releasing in May of 2019. Meanwhile, Activision brought in Beanox, known for games like Monsters vs. Aliens and the B-movie game.
Of course Beanox did the B-movie game.
Anyways, Beanox gave us a remake of CTR called Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, releasing in June of 2019. Initially, I was just going to do a video on Nitro-Fueled and call it a day, but I thought throwing in what was pretty much its competition would make this way more interesting. We got ourselves a grudge match, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ring vs. Wumpa, Hedgehog vs. Bandicoot, Sonic vs. Crash.
Who do you think you are, a ringmaster?
Maybe I am. Is that judgment I hear?
Nah, I'd do the same, honestly. Just pointing it out.
Well, anyways, let's break down a few things before we get into what's being... First off, this is mostly my opinion on this video. Z-Dog's just gonna chime in every so often and say stuff. You good at saying stuff?
Mostly, yeah. As long as it's not a 40-minute discussion on Thor versus Wonder Woman.
Anyway, I should also note that I'm going to be taking a look at the PS4 versions of both games. As they're the versions I own, the PS4 version of CTR is arguably the definitive way of playing the game, and I just thought it'd be fair to look at both on the same console. And lastly, just because this is more of a grudge match than a review, I'm just going to come out and say that both games are good. Like, really good. So, if I don't pick the game you prefer, then don't take that as me hating the game. Make sense to you?
Yeah, I think they got it. Can we just get on with this already?
Someone's impatient.
Well, yes. Yes, I am.
For this comparison, I've broken it down into 5 categories: story, roster, graphics, audio, and gameplay. Initially, I was going to separate the audio into the soundtrack and voice acting, but I wanted to prevent any chance of a tie, so we're sticking to this. With that said, fasten your seatbelts for a...
Nope, you're just asking for a copyright strike at this point.
Fine, let's just get this thing rolling.
Oh, I can do my special announcer voice for this.
Wait, what?
Round 1, story.
So as to be expected with a kart racer trying to step into Nintendo's shoes, the stories of both games are rather simplistic. In TSR, Sonic and his friends are invited to a racing competition, quote-unquote, by debut character Dodonpa. He's apparently built all of the karts for the racers, and I say apparently because the Speedstar from the All-Stars racing games is what Sonic uses to drive.
Ain't that convenient?
Throughout the campaign, the characters start questioning Dodonpa's methods, with some thinking he's working for Eggman. Guess they're just really good at jumping to conclusions. This is not at all helped by Eggman himself actually being invited. Well, ain't that just awkward?
Let me guess. It's eventually revealed that Eggman is working for Dodonpa like usual.
Actually, no. Turns out Dodonpa is actually the president of a company called Donpa Motors, and king of a planet called Donpa Kingdom. The reason he set up the competition is because he built the cars to power up a machine called the Ultimate Energy Engine, which would be used to usher a new era of prosperity. What do the cars have to do with this, you may ask? Well, the machine is powered by the car's racing capabilities and the real superpower of teamwork.
Because of course it is. Proof that they'll never really let go of heroes.
But with every great machine in the world, a certain Baldy McNose hair has to come in and ruin it. Eggman captures the Dodonpa and forces, quote-unquote, the heroes into races to continue to power up the engine. As with most of Eggman's plans, this goes horribly wrong. The engine becomes unstable, causing Eggman's ship to explode, with the heroes and Dodonpa escaping. And that's pretty much the story. There's a ton of exposition used to keep it going, but all in all, very simple story for a genre that doesn't need one in the first place.
Still 10 times more complex than what Mr. Bandyman's rocking over here.
And on that note, let's move on to CTR. Introducing the alien Nitrous Oxide, an alien from the planet of Gasmoxia, who shows up on Earth and challenges the racers to a game. It's called Survival of the Fastest. How it works is that he races the best driver in the world to a race. If said driver wins, Oxide leaves no questions asked. But if Oxide wins, he'll turn the entire globe into a concrete parking lot and make everyone his minions. Or slaves, I don't know. That gets changed from the...
But if I win, I'll turn your entire globe into a concrete parking lot and make you my slaves. But if I win, I will turn your entire globe into a concrete parking lot and make you my minions.
And that's pretty much it.
Georgia. At least they made the main villain entertaining enough. Also, thank goodness they went in the end. Dealing with the parking lots 24/7 sounds like such a headache.
I know, can you also imagine the world entirely made out of concrete? That's such a weird concept. Still would probably be better than the bricks the world's currently turned into.
True that. True that. But now, which one do you think is better?
Well, both stories work fine enough for me. They're simplistic stories in a genre that doesn't really need one in the first place. But there is one thing that sways my opinion: how both stories are explored and presented. Team Sonic Racing is explored in a level select tree thing, similar to how games like Super Mario World or Shovel Knight handle it. While CTR is explored with hub worlds where you can drive around and practice, or how Uka Uka puts it,
you can travel around this area and practice your driving skills.
I'll talk about this later. Anyway, as for presentation, well, CTR handles things similar to Insane Trilogy, with stretchy and well-done animated cutscenes. TSR, on the other hand, presents all of its story and dialogue with these weird still images. Remember Sonic Rivals? Of course you don't. It's basically that. In fact, the only CGI animation in the entire game is the game's intro, which plays absolutely no part in the story mode at all. So, yeah, this point is definitely going to crash for this.
Round 2. Roster.
Okay, this is not a fair comparison.
Oh, come on. With the vast roster these two series have, both should be filled to the brim with iconic characters.
You say that, but...
Oh, so that's what disappointment feels like. Seriously though, that's it? And why the heck bring back Discount Bowser of all characters? Who really cares about him nowadays?
Your eyes do not deceive you, this is literally it. For such a big and character-filled series like Sonic, you'd expect so much but get so little. What doesn't help is that each character is organized in 2 different teams of 3.
Again, really can't let go of heroes.
Some of these teams are obvious. Team Sonic and Team Dark were already established. Why fix what ain't broke? That doesn't count. Amy and Big on Team Rose makes sense, but where the heck is Cream?
I mean, to be fair, she probably can't reach the pedals.
And yet a group of Chow can?
Sure, why not? Maybe secretly they have bricks to put it down. Though, why does Sega keep thinking we give a crap about Omochao?
That is an excellent question that I really don't have the answer to. And speaking of characters not being here, Team Chaotix is apparently just Vector nowadays. Espio and Charmy are completely absent, with Silver and Blaze of all people taking their place. At least they're mentioned in the story, giving a reason for their absence. Not even Cream got that. But still, I don't get it. Metal Sonic working for Eggman now is whatever, but Zavok is apparently going along with it too? Wasn't the whole point of the Deadly Six in the Lost World that they were forced to work with the Doctor, and they made it very clear they actually hate him? Why is he suddenly okay with this now? There's no mention of the Concubes in the Lost World, so I guess he had a change of heart?
Or Sega just ran out of characters to use, somehow, and thought, oh yeah, this guy. Screw it, let's program him in. Because I guess driving against Emerald or Emotobug sounded way too unappealing. Or heck, think of a way to bring back Infinite, I don't know.
Or heck, if you get to play as a group of Chow, why not work in Orbot and Cubot? They have presence and dialogue in the story.
Man, now I really want that, and we'll never get it. I'm sad now.
And this brings us to CTR. Oh boy, where do I start?
At the beginning.
I am so ready to be just as disappointed as I was for Sonic.
But you know how big the roster is already.
Shh! I'm trying to create dramatic effect.
Anyway, while Sonic's roster is rather small, featuring the minimal amount of characters, CTR goes above and beyond. Not only do we have the classic original 8, being Crash, Cortex, Tiny, Coco, Engine, Polar, Purah, and Dingodile,
Shut off!
but also all the game's boss characters, including Oxide. Secret characters like Entropy, Fake Crash, and Pentapenguin, the last of which is only unlockable via cheat code, and also all the characters from Nitro Kart. Crash Bandicoot finally makes his HD debut. Entrance looking as weird as ever, all the boss characters like before, and even Zem and Zam. Remember these guys? Good, because I don't either. This is just what we got in the base game, and it's still double what TSR gave us. And that's not even it. The game gave us Grand Prix events, monthly events that gave us new tracks to race on, a bunch of cosmetics that I'll cover later, and of course, new characters. Tana is now playable for the first time in a Crash Kart Racer, along with the old trophy girls from the original CTR, now called the Nitro Squad. You have the baby T-Rex from Crash 3, baby versions of Crash, Coco, Cortex, and Entropy.
Because even Crash has to take the baby character trope from Mario Kart.
Nina Cortex as well makes her return, along with Komodo Mo and Embryo, who were absent at first for some reason. All the characters from Tag Team Racing, except for Willy Wumpa Cheeks, but who gives a crap about Willy Wumpa Cheeks, Yaya Panda, who only appeared in mobile games, Megamix, looking more terrifying than ever, and even Hasty, a new character based on an old myth of a cut character from the original CTR. And of course, let's not forget about the greatest additions to this game.
King Chicken and a box!
No, Crash's PlayStation partner, Spyro the frickin' Dragon. This is something that to this day continues to make me happy. Crash and Spyro in the same game is something I've been wanting for years. That doesn't count.
Okay, I totally get that, and I somewhat agree. But a box of all things! Beanox, why? It's so odd, but it's so awesome! I can't wait till it gets in Smash Ultimate!
Hey, at least it's a funny reward for one of the dumbest ways to unlock a character I've seen in a video game. Seriously, searching for those Beanox crates was a pain. Whoever programmed the one in Gingerbread Joyride needs to be fired. Anyway, as you can see, Beanox went above and beyond, researching Crash's vast history and putting in as many characters as they can. Heck, even Rillaroos got the spotlight. And that's the last we're going to speak of that.
So yeah, clearly Crash wins here. Take that, frickin' Zavok. Get owned by a crate! Round 3. Graphics.
Okay, I'll admit this one can be a bit subjective. I will also say that I'm judging CTR's graphics as they are, rather than comparing it to the original CTR. Team Sonic Racing takes the usual Sonic game approach of, it doesn't matter how good the game is, it's gonna look great. And yeah, it looks great.
You got that right. Though Sonic Boom would like to talk about that quote of yours.
I said usual, not constant. Despite not being a focus, the actual character models actually don't look terrible, and they can be pretty expressive, instead of just being glorified bricks. Can't say the same for the icons on the corners of the screen though, but I'm not watching those when I'm playing, so I don't really care. And the tracks are all well designed and relatively distinct from one another. And also, they play homage to previous areas in previous games. You got stuff like Planet Wisp from Colors, Rooftop Run from Unleashed, Sandopolis from Sonic 3 and Adventure 2, and a bunch of areas from Heroes. Seaside Hill, Ocean Palace, the casino levels, and Final Fortress, all remastered and made into a racetrack.
Much appreciated for those who never played the first two games.
Moving on over to CTR, this game's style uses the same models and art style as Insane Trilogy, taking the already established designs from days of old and giving them that HD touch to make them look like actual furry creatures instead of something I could probably make out of Play-Doh. All the characters from Insane Trilogy have their model reused, but the rest needed new models to fit the style, and thankfully not one appears out of place. They're also just as expressive as they are in Insane as well, which is very nice. And as for the track design, while a good chunk of the tracks are original, at least as far as the tracks themselves are concerned, this is still a remake, some go those extra steps to draw inspiration from the original trilogy. You got stuff like Insanity Beach from Crash 1, the motorcycle levels from Crash 3, and the sewer levels from Crash 2, among other things. And while all the tracks except the Grand Prix ones are already established tracks thanks to the original CTR and Nitro Kart, Beanox took it upon themselves to add their own visual twist to a good majority of them. To name some examples, Inferno Island now takes place in the dark and has what looks like Oxide's ship crashed on the shore. The Triceratops from Crash 3 are spectating in Mystery Caves, and you see this dragon in the infamous Dragon Mines? That's the dragon that chased you in Wizards and Lizards in Wrath of Cortex.
Sounds to me like you preferred Crash in this regard as well.
Well, not exactly. Both art styles cater to different audiences, and I personally don't think they can be fairly compared. What can be compared, however, is the performance on both. Team Sonic Racing runs at a traditional 60 FPS with no noticeable drops. CTR, on the other hand, only runs at 30 FPS, but also with no noticeable drops. It doesn't bother me personally, but I will always prefer a game running at a smooth 60 FPS as opposed to 30. So this point actually goes to Sonic.
Round 4. Audio. Oh gee, I wonder who'll take this category.
Will you just wait a second?
Fine, but come on, you know this is super obvious.
Now, as I noted before, this category is going to cover both the soundtracks and the voice acting. Starting with TSR, saying this game's soundtrack is incredible is the equivalent of saying grass is green and water is wet. Given that all the racetracks are based on previously established levels in mainline Sonic games, the soundtracks are composed of versions of the ones used in said levels in order to make them fit in a racing game. What's even better is that this game was composed by T. Lopez and the triumphant return of Jun Sonoe and Crush 40.
Wait, what?
Yep, Crush 40 has returned with their rocking new track, Green Light Ride. I would play a sample, but apparently Sega's been inconsistent with how it handles copyright claims, so I'm just gonna play it safe. So yeah, the Sonic game has a fantastic soundtrack. I'm shocked.
Said no one ever.
As for the voice acting, most of the voice actors from the more modern era games return to reprise their roles. Remember that I said most for later. Bringing back familiar voices is something I'm totally fine with because more Mike Pollock as Eggman is a good thing. This does mean you get voices like Roger Craig Smith as Sonic and Kirk Thornton as Shadow. I know it's kind of a heated discussion on which Sonic voice you prefer, but if I'm gonna be honest with you people, I'm honestly siding with Roger on this. Something about the voice he gives just really works given Sonic's character. Kirk Thornton, on the other hand, I'm a bit indifferent to. On one hand, it doesn't help the more edgy personality I think Sega's blowing way too out of proportion nowadays, and I do still miss Jason Griffith's take on the character, but playing through this game, it almost convinced me that he was being played by Jason Liebrecht, the voice of Dobby and Crow, and no one told me.
I always try, and I always succeed. I'm not here for you, and I'm not working with the doctor.
Yeah, I see what you mean. What was it you said about most, though?
Ah yes, you remembered. Good job.
Yay! What do I win?
Anyways,
Aww.
so I mentioned that most of the voice actors returned, but 6 characters in this game weren't so lucky. Knuckles, Omega, Omochao, Silver, Blaze, and Zavok all had their voices recast for reasons that neither Sega or Suma Digital ever mentioned. Though for Omega, I think it's pretty obvious as to why.
Wait, what's the problem? Oh, yikes.
Luckily, Dave B. Mitchell, the voice of Knuckles, sounds almost exactly like Travis Willingham to the point where if I hadn't found out, I probably wouldn't have noticed. That's doubly true for Erica Lindbeck as Blaze, and Omochao, but who cares about Omochao? I guess Laura Bailey was too focused on The Last of Us Part 2, and that's the last we're going to speak of that before there's an outrage in my comment section. But there's 2 big highlights in my opinion. One for the better, and one for the worst. Quentin Flynn, the previous voice of Silver, will be missed in this role, as the current voice actor, Bryce Papenbrook, while sounding okay as Silver, doesn't feel like a good replacement. The other one is Zavok, who... You know what? I'm just going to show you.
Chow. Disgusting creatures.
Oh, hey, good old Ragnar Gabagori, the Hellspawn and number 2 hero, my favorite.
Yep, you guessed it. Somehow, Sega managed to snag Patrick Seitz himself and put him in a Sonic game. Honestly, Zavok's inclusion doesn't seem so bad anymore. Also, Dodonpa is voiced by Kyle Herbert, but honestly I couldn't care less for this guy, so let's just move on. Anyway, moving on over to CTR. Most of the soundtrack in this game is recomposed versions of the original soundtrack from the original CTR, as well as Nitro Kart. This is a remake after all. But as their own tracks, there's quite a bit of memorable soundtracks in this game. The biggest highlights in my opinion being Crash Cove, Electron Avenue, Spyro Circuit, and Mega Mix Mania. What's cool is that even though for the most part all the tracks were handled by newcomers, luckily Josh Mansell, the composer of the original trilogy as well as the original CTR, was brought in to assist. And if you ask me, it really shows. As for the voice acting, well, most of the characters from Ensign Trilogy have their voice actors return to reprise their roles as well. And given this includes voice actors like Jess Harnell, Lex Lang, Debbie Derryberry, and Fred Taskior, I'm honestly okay with this.
But what about the Nitro Kart characters? Clearly they'd be able to get them back, right?
Well...
Don't tell me.
I mean, Big Norm has his VA return. And yeah, that's about it. Even though Kevin Michael Richardson does voice a different character in this game, he does not come back to voice Crunch. And not to say that Ike Amati is bad, because he's not. It's just kind of unfortunate. And while the voice acting in general doesn't sound bad at all, a few Grand Prix in, and I started to notice something that's been bothering me since. The game's constant reuse of voice actors. I kid you not, Andre Sogliuzzo and Andrew Morgado voice almost half the characters in the game. Now for a while, knowing that fact was kind of annoying, but I managed to push it aside because the voices, for the most part, sounded different from each other. But then... Velo happened.
Now bow down to me, Emperor Velo the 27th. Ruler of the galaxy!
I don't understand. What's the problem?
Well, first off, he sounds exactly like Big Norm. Oh, and would you look at that, there's voice for the same guy. And secondly, he's originally voiced by Stephen Bloom, and replacing a voice actor of that degree, in my opinion, is kind of unsettling.
Well, it sounds like I was right about my assumption earlier.
As quick as you were to judgment, Yeah, you weren't wrong. Both games have great soundtracks and good voice acting, but I honestly prefer the variety of voice actors in TSR, and, well, Greenlight Ride exists. And honestly, I think the game deserves points for that reason alone. So, points goes to the Hedgehog here.
Final round. Gameplay. It all comes down to this, eh? Who will take the trophy in the final round?
Strap yourselves in and grab some snacks, because this is going to be a beefy discussion. Now, at first glance, both seem like pretty standard kart racers, except Sonic has 12 racers instead of 8. Oh, the horror! Basically, you hold the button down, throw weapons at people, and do that better than everyone else in order to win. But both have that right amount of differences in order to make them stand out from what seems to be the essential kart racer, Mario Kart. One of Team Sonic Racing's differences is dropped right on you as you start playing. In order to accelerate, you hold the right trigger instead of X or A. And given this is a Sonic game, rings are of course the main pickups, as opposed to coins. The only thing that weirds me out about this is that you can collect as many as you want, as opposed to just being limited to 10. The power-ups you use are the wisps from colors. You can fire rockets, turn invisible, become invincible, have a void surrounding you that draws in rings and capsules, among other things.
I guess Heroes isn't the only thing Sega can't let go.
But the major change is what the word team is referring to. Like I said before, each character is put into one of 5 teams, and this is emphasized in the racing itself. See, the goal of the race isn't just win the race. You have to make sure that your teammates do good as well. You can do stuff like have a trail behind you if you're the leading teammate, and your other teammates can drive into it to gain a speed boost if they're falling behind. Pass items to teammates, and if you get hit by an item and your teammate passes by you, you can boost right back into the race. This system changes the entirety of the status quo of TSR, as it doesn't really matter how good you are. If your teammates suck, you've lost. But it's an extra layer of thinking and strategy that I very much appreciate.
Sounds like it can get irritating if your teammates are slacking off.
Well, that's where you helping them out comes from. If you lose because your teammates fall behind, it's also punishing for you, as you focus more on getting ahead and not helping out your friends. The best part about this is that as you help out your teammates and actually work as a team, a meter behind the car will fill up. When it's full, you can activate the ultimate boost, where you're not only completely invincible, but you also get a massive boost in speed.
So, pretty much the closest this game gets to Supersonic.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's both so cool and so lame at the same time. How do you manage that?
Oh, something I didn't mention when we were talking about the soundtrack is that when you pull off this boost, each character gets their own unique remix theme for the short time you have the boost. For example, Sonic gets Reach for the Stars from Colors, Shadow gets All Hail Shadow from 06, Metal Sonic gets Stardust Speedway from CD.
No one I'm made of. Aww.
Yeah, that is kind of unfortunate. Anyway, Amy, Vector, and Omega get their team themes from Heroes, which is fine by me because more of this machine is appreciated. Knuckles gets Unknown from Adventure, because of course he does. Eggman gets his theme also from Adventure, among others. Oh, another helpful mechanic when using Ultimate Boost is that if all 3 teammates press the button at the same time, the boost lasts longer, which is really helpful in multiplayer. Oh yeah, the game has multiplayer, both offline and online. Offline works as it should, nothing really to note there. But online? I mean, it functions. It's just that barely anybody is playing on it. If anyone actually got matches in this game online, let me know how it worked, because I got like 2 races in and gave up. But the racing isn't the only thing you can do. The story mode has different side objectives you can do, like collecting as many rings as possible, gaining as many points by driving through these posts, among other things. But outside of the story mode, there's Time Trial, where you drive around the track as many times as you want in order to gain the best time. What's cool about this is that when you complete the first lap, a ghost of your character will show up and drive as good as you need to in order to gain the certain medals: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Now let me tell you, getting the platinum time in this is very challenging.
Well, I mean, I kind of figured that.
And that's pretty much it for the game modes, but there's still one extra thing in the game: customization. After every single race, you gain these tokens, and you can spend them in the garage for customization pods, and these will give you stuff like new parts for the body of the car, which actually affect the stats of said car, different paint jobs, and even gives you new horn sounds. Ah yes, the most important and required customization item in the entire game: the horn.
You know, this oddly reminds me of another game.
Let me guess, the newer Mario Karts?
No. My Sims Racing of all things. Like, the whole shebang of customizing is basically the same, including the horn, of course, because gosh forbid you forget the horn.
Luckily, the stat differences aren't too drastic, but it is there, and it's something to keep an eye out for. The only good thing about this that kinda sucks is that each of the options you get are something you gain at random. You have no control over what customizable options you get, or even which type. So if you're like me, who really doesn't care about things like the different paint jobs or the horn, this can get pretty annoying. Luckily, I don't think you get duplicate parts for the cars, except for the Legendary Editions, which do nothing but make the parts gold, which honestly sticks out like a sore thumb on stuff like the Speedstar. And aside from that, the stat differences are all the same as the standard versions, so I don't really bother with this. But all this combined together makes Team Sonic Racing a joy to play, and if you don't like the team aspect, which why not, there is an option to play the game regularly and not have to worry about teamwork. But this kind of makes the game a breeze, so don't bother. This brings us now to CTR, and this is a bit more standard, but still a standout in the kart racer genre. At first glance, it seems pretty simple. 8 characters race on a track and see which one does a better job of having their foot on the pedal. And yes, we're back to 8 instead of 12. Most of the controls people familiarize themselves with because of Mario Kart are used here, with a few exceptions. The first is how Wumpa Fruit is handled. Think the coins in Mario Kart combined with the power-up upgrades in Diddy Kong Racing. Collecting Wumpa Fruit increases your kart's top speed, but it also gives a slight upgrade to your power-ups. Boost and invincibility lasts longer, TNT crates become nitro crates, among other things.
So, does this mean the Wumpa Juices are also gas for cars in a way? That's very weird and nonsensical. Then again, considering what series we're talking about, I'm not too surprised.
But the game's claim to fame is in its power sliding system. When you go into a drift, a meter at the bottom right of the screen will fill up. And if you press the opposite bumper you're not holding down at just the right time, you gain an extra boost. And you can link up to 3 boosts at a time. All this makes CTR one of those games that's easy to play, but hard to master, especially if you're playing on the game's harder difficulties. The AI can be kind of brain dead on easy mode, so probably best you stick to normal.
Can attest for that at least. Like, geez, I don't want that easy of a victory. Also, holy crap, it's so much fun when you get used to it, especially when you use it alongside jumping from high surfaces. Super Speedway is the best in that regard.
I know, sometimes I even feel like you reach speeds even the Plumber Boy can achieve.
Hey, that's my childhood Plumber Boy you're talking about. Also, 200cc would like to have a word with you.
Well, when you power slide constantly and combine it with the aforementioned jump boost, turbo panels, and power-ups, you might as well call it 200cc.
Fair game. Fair game.
But, like TSR, single races or cup races aren't the only thing you can do. Time trials also exist here, but unlike TSR, where you can go around the track forever, you are limited to 3 laps. But there's no item boxes here, all the shortcuts you would need items for are open, like in Tiger Temple, and it's just you and the track. And for an extra bonus, you get to race ghosts of Entropy, Oxide, Velo, or an actual developer in order to gain the best times. Entropy times are honestly pretty easy, and they're the only way you can unlock the Mad Doctor as a racer. Oxides are way trickier, but still very doable, and you get a cool skin for Entropy for completing them, but more on this later. Velo and the developer times, however, holy crap, they're hard! You basically have to be pixel perfect on these in order to beat them. There's a reason why William P has become such a meme in the Crash community.
Good thing I haven't tackled them yet, and I don't have to suffer, so ha!
In a similar vein to the time trials, there's relic races. Remember the time trials from the platforming games? I bet you do! Yeah, they're basically that. Break boxes to stop the timer, and aside from that, just get good. Before you ask, yes, these are pretty much just as hard as they are in the platforming games. So if you don't like them there, chances are you won't like them here. Luckily, if you manage to break all the boxes, you get a 10-second deduction, which does help a lot. Doesn't make these easy though.
Yeah, and getting some of these are very difficult to say the least. Especially when you go for a box but lay into the frickin' mud because of it.
There's also the CTR challenges, where you race just as you normally would, but the letters C, T, and R are scattered around the track. The goal is to find these and still come in first place. If you can do this in the story mode, you get a CTR token, and collect enough of a specific color, and they'll open portals in Gemstone Valley, the hub world where you challenge Oxide. The cool thing about these challenges is that the letters are often put in the track's shortcuts, allowing you to get a better feel of the tracks and thus do better at the races.
Just make sure, for the love of all things, you don't miss any by the end of lap 2, because oh boy, that can get annoying if you're just at the end but miss one letter and have to do the whole thing again.
And that's still not all. There's also a battle mode. In this mode, there are 5 different types of battles. Limit Battle, and I guess Last Cart Driving because they're pretty much the same thing. The names speak for themselves, honestly. There was also stuff like Capture the Flag, Steal the Bacon, and Crystal Grab, the latter of which also has its own game mode for some reason. In this, you have to grab all the crystals scattered around under a time limit. And the last mode we get is Ring Rally, where you race around the track until time runs out. But you drive through rings to gain extra time and get an extra speed boost. This has got to be one of my favorite game modes in the game, honestly.
Agreed. Especially since the rings get smaller each lap to make it even more challenging. It makes it even more exciting. Just one question. Why wasn't this in the initial game?
But the big one that is a huge talking point in the Crash community is the online. Why is it a talking point, you may ask? Because it doesn't work half the time, that's why. Stuff like getting booted out of lobbies, matches just straight up not working, players being further ahead than they actually are, the online in this game is kind of a mess. When you can actually manage to get it to work, it can be quite fun, but there's one itsy bitsy caveat for me. I absolutely suck at it. The matches online are brutal. Not only because of the aforementioned issues, but also everyone I play against seems to be absolute gods at the game. It's insane.
Yeah, well, I haven't played too many matches online. Those I have played, while fun, can get really frustrated because of the aforementioned issues.
One thing that all of these modes have in common is what you get as a reward after you finish. Wumpa coins. This is the game's in-game currency, and they allow you to buy things like characters, character skins, cart bodies, decals, tires, paint jobs, and stickers, the game's customization options. You earn these coins by playing game modes, with how much you get normally depending on how good you are and what track you play on.
Or...
We really have to talk about that, don't we?
Look, I'm as happy about it as you are, but it is something that needs noting.
Fine. Activision decided to say, you know what, screw you, and threw in everyone's favorite new trend in the gaming world, microtransactions. Yep, you can purchase Wumpa coins using IRL money. Oh boy, this is gonna be a doozy.
Oh no, Brobuscus! Don't tell me you're actually gonna defend these! They're the worst! They've ruined this game! Everyone don't buy it! It's the worst thing ever!
Are you done?
And, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, well, I do want to make it very clear right here, right now, that I think Activision can take this microtransactions practice
And shove off!
I do not defend this idea, especially the idea that they can add them post-launch. This, by all intents and purposes, is completely unacceptable. They should have kept it to just earning coins via races, and that's it. I'm beyond ecstatic that Toys for Bob has confirmed that MTX are going to be completely absent in the upcoming Crash 4. And I do not envy anyone who had to trade in their copy of this game after hearing about this because of any sort of temptation to buy them. However, if I'm going to be upfront about it all, these don't really bother me as much as it seems to bother everyone else.
Well, now that that's done, who's getting the point this time around?
Well, that's the interesting part. Both games have their own quirks to them that make them a lot of fun to play, and both are objectively very good games. But for a comparison like this, I go for which one I had the most fun playing. And while the team aspect of TSR adds a whole new layer of fun to the kart racer genre, the amount of content you earn in CTR, as well as the carnage that ensues during playthroughs, makes it a rocking good time and super replayable. CTR has more tracks, far more things to unlock, and is in all more fun to play. Nothing more to it.
The winner is Crash Team Racing! Well, that was quite the comparison.
Yep, and it looks like CTR took home the trophy. Like I said though, both games are very, very good, and I highly recommend you go pick up both of them, provided you have the right systems. Hashtag RIP CTR and PC.
I'm stuck on my Switch, so I do have CTR, but not Team Sonic Racing. Oh.
Anyway, if you're at all able, please grab both of those games. You won't regret it.
So, now that that's done, I bet you're not so stingy on others joining you, huh?
Well, I'll admit that this was a lot of fun to do, but I'm still gonna need you to leave and not tell anybody about where this room is.
No, what? Come on!
You want to stick around for another game you haven't played?
It depends on the game. Let me see. Nope, I'm out. Whoop! See you for the next recording!
thought so. Now that that's done, that's all I have to say. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.